Hey guys, this is Jonathon Henderson with Pressure Washing Marketing Pros, and I got Aaron Harper with me of Rolling Suds again, guys, on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. I wanted to bring him back because he shared a lot of value on our last podcast. And I know, Aaron, you've been making your rounds, man, making your waves in the exterior cleaning industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you guys on. So if you guys have been living under a rock and you don't know who Aaron is, he is the franchise or he's the owner of the franchise Rolling Suds. And you guys have 90 franchisees right now in over 308 territories, correct?
Yep, that's correct. 34 states now, I think.
34
Maybe
states.
35.
Yeah, no, I see you guys everywhere, Aaron. Whether it's on Google, whether it's your guys' trucks out there. I know you guys do a lot of commercial jobs as well. And I'm actually in Aaron's backyard right now, out in Nashville, guys. So I know I don't have my shirts on and all of that, but like I said, I had to get Aaron on the podcast right now. I had to before you're having a kid, right, Aaron?
Yep, number three.
Number three. So before he has his kid, and I just want to go ahead and make sure I could get this man on the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about, guys, is how to build a brand with no audience. And no better person to talk about that than Aaron, because I know that you post consistently on things like Facebook, Twitter, and even LinkedIn. And I know that you built up a following. What is your following like right now?
We put out somewhere between 10 and 15 pieces of content per day across all platforms.
Hmm.
Um, I think we just crossed 4,000 followers on Twitter. Um, that's Twitter and LinkedIn are our biggest kind of
Hmm.
audiences.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what we have on LinkedIn. I think it's like maybe 5 or 6,000. But it's really niche and kind of focused on people who want to start businesses, people who are in the franchise industry, people who are in the power wash industry, like people who are like it's less about volume and it's more about quality of the audience.
Quality of the content, because you guys came on the scene rapidly, right? And so what
Yeah.
would you tell people? Because right now, when you had first joined Rolling Suds, like how did you approach building a brand without having an established audience, right? And nobody, as you know, you started this franchise in essence. So how were you able to build the audience? Because as people may have not heard earlier, you have 90 franchisees and like I said, 308 territories. So you did that without starting any brand. And this has been within the last 3 to 4 years, correct?
So we launched Rolling Suds as a franchise in February of 2023.
Hmm.
So we're currently in the third year,
Yep.
about two and a half years or so in, a little under. We had one original location in the Pennsylvania kind of suburbs, and I acquired the systems, processes, trademarks, franchise rights of this great, amazing family business, partnered with Brian Wendling Sr. And Brian Wendling Jr., who started the business in 1990 and built the franchise system around them. So there's really two two brands here. There's Rolling Suds, which has one kind of like single or had one single location in Pennsylvania. And then there's Rolling Suds, the franchise. And so I did rebranded, new logo, new colors, same name. I wanted to honor their kind of family business that's 35 years old now.
Hmm.
So we kept the same name, but redesigned the wraps, the logos, the mission statement, core values, everything to kind of modernize it so that it could work in any market. And I pretty much did that myself before we launched. So I did the kind of contracted out the logo and built the brand documents and all of that kind of stuff. Really, when you launch a franchise brand, no matter what market you go into, no one knows who you are.
Hmm.
And as at least initially, right? As the brand grows, then you get kind of critical mass and awareness, and that's one of the benefits of a franchise, which we're at now. But when we launched that before, that wasn't the case. So really, the franchisees who join our system go out and build their local presence in their market, utilizing vendors, suppliers, internal lead generation engines, different things like that that we provide them in terms of tools and resources. And then they go out and they build their own business that they own 100% of, which I think is kind of something that a lot of people don't know about franchises. Like they own 100% of their business. Yes, they pay a royalty, but like they own 100% of their business. They can sell it whenever they want. And so they go out and we give them the tools they need to build their local brand around Rolling Suds. Then on the national level, as we add more franchises, their local brand becomes more, Rolling Suds becomes more valuable as we continue to get critical mass. And now, since I spoke to you last, we're really pushing on national accounts because, as you know, and I know, there's not really any there's not really any national franchises that have presence in 30, 40 states. So when you go to a property management company or you go to, a fast food chain or you go to a fast casual chain or you go to a Macy's or whatever, like they don't have someone who can handle, they don't have a company that can handle these across multiple locations in multiple states. So that's kind of like really high level how a franchise brand builds like from scratch.
Mhm.
But as we source new franchisees, the best way we've been able to do that is via content that I personally create. And it's less about here's how to power wash buildings and more about here's how to build a business because the content that is created on my personal social media channels is all based upon the things that I know and the things that I can speak to, and that is how to build a brand, how to create content, how to franchise a business, things on how a good franchisee grows a brand, like, and so we try to provide value to those who would potentially be franchise owners. And we've been able to find a significant amount of our franchise owners through the content that I've put out either on my own channels or creating content with people like Cody Sanchez or some others.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
Cody Sanchez one. Cody
yeah, yeah.
Sanchez is very popular. I saw you on that one, man. That was an awesome video to see.
Thanks. Yeah, that was really fun. So Cody and I have become friends since we did that almost a year ago now. So we talk pretty often and like so it's really kind of like that brand and I think that part might be more valuable to your audience than the like how to build a franchise brand part, which again I create content about, but most of, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of your audience are kind of solopreneurs. They're trying to get their second truck off the ground, potentially, right? Maybe you've got some guys that have three, four trucks, but the majority of the audience that might listen to you is like trying to build a local pressure washing business, right?
Bingo.
Yep.
You're correct.
So my recommendation would be to start creating content today. And don't overthink it. Like take create content about you going out and power washing the building and talking about the job and how you won the job. Talk about if you've got employees, talk about how you found the employees and some recruiting mechanisms that you've learned in the process. Like, and so the best kind of like format is like for personal brand content is like there's this thing that I like I can promise you that I know about from this piece of content. Like let's say it's how to hire, or how to delegate, or how to power wash this building or whatever. So like you make the promise in the hook, then you say who you are, so you give the proof as to why you know how to do the thing that you're talking about, and then path, and then you give them the path to do that. And that could be a 15-second clip all the way up to an hour and a half long video, right? Like that, but that's kind of like the thought process around, and then you teach them something that they would otherwise have to go through some pain that you might have experienced to learn. And now you can give them kind of, and Alex Hormozy talks about this, like you can give them the pain, you can give them the promise without the pain, or I forget how he says it, but
Oh,
it's
I
like,
know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like you basically can identify those things before that person actually experiences that pain in that sense. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, like if you go down this neighborhood, this is what can happen to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I definitely understand what you mean by that in that sense. And so what if I'm somebody, right? What if I'm somebody like I'm a new business owner, let's say I'm doing 250,000 in annual revenue, right? Because I think that's like that point where you're gonna have to hire somebody. Like you up to 250,000, you can probably do everything yourself, but what would you say to the guys that are like, hey man, if I'm educating my guys, as you know, the exterior cleaning industry, or if I'm educating my customer, guess what, man? Like these guys might do it themselves. Like I've heard that before. Like what would you tell those guys where they're like, dude, I don't want to teach them how to clean a roof, or I don't want to do that. Like what would you tell those guys?
My advice would be the more value you can add to the
Hmm.
people who follow you, the bigger audience you'll get.
Hmm.
And the audience and the people who follow you um, will be directly proportional to the amount of value that you provide the people who want to follow you. Um, Most people aren't going to do the things that you're teaching them how to do. Um, it's just the fact that like and it's like you can make Alex Ramosi can make the same argument, right? Like he's teaching everyone all of his skills on how to buy businesses, how to acquire, how to like all these things. And you can make the same argument like he's training all of his competition. Honestly, you just have to be better. Like and if you do train your competition, who cares? Because you're building an audience and you're building a brand that's going to outlast them. Like it could be argued in the franchise industry, there's only a handful of people that can take, I don't know if a handful, I mean, it's like I don't know, maybe 30 or less people, let's just say, that can take a brand from one location to hundreds. But I want to teach people how to do that. I want to teach people how to buy business. I want to teach people how to do that because it's kind of an abundance mindset. What you're talking about is really a scarcity mindset. It's like, oh, I'm not going to do that because I'm afraid of someone stealing my, whatever. But it's like if you're trying to build an audience, you're not going to build an audience with something that isn't valuable.
Hmm.
And what we're seeing now, at least this is a trend I've seen with like AI, is because AI is getting so good, and you could go in and you can just be like, give me the 5-step process on how to clean a roof. Like the the creators, the influencers, the business owners, the entrepreneurs who are going to stand out, at least from a content perspective, are going to be those who tell stories that are independent to them. And so like the recommendation I would make for content creation for your audience is here's what I'm currently doing today and the things I'm learning from what I'm currently doing today. And the more timely and relevant and valuable you can make the content, the more people who are going to follow along.
And so what you're talking about is probably like being on the job, right? And I think I tell a lot of people on even on this channel. And thank you for verifying that information in the sense that if you're out doing like a 4,000 square foot home, you know what I mean? And it's a nice home and that customer, is loving what you're doing at that point, you need to take a video of that, right? To say, hey guys, we're at this 4,000 square foot home, we're doing this because people will engage, right? Like we all engage videos, we all engage. I always tell people you want to make it seem as if like the content you're putting out, even if that person's not your friend, quote unquote, on Facebook, that they're still going to scroll and stop and watch. There's been times I've been on social media and I've been like, I'm not even like friends with this dude on Facebook. You know what I mean? And I'm like watching his stuff, right? Or I'm watching their stuff. So thank you for saying that in that sense. My next question I have for you, Aaron, is going to be like, how do you differentiate your brand when like competing against like more established competitors? That's one thing that people will always tell me, like, hey, this guy's been in business for 15 years, right? And I've only been in business for 3 years. Like, how can I differentiate myself between that guy who's more established and this guy who's not as established? And I think you're the perfect person to talk about this because, as you know, you created the franchise with that, and those guys had 35 years of experience. But as you said, it was one location. You guys are in
Mhm.
multiple locations now. So, what would you tell guys if they're like, "Hey, how do I differentiate myself from the bigger guys?"
Yeah, I mean, it's just like entering any market. Like a restaurant, just because there are other restaurants, isn't going to have necessarily a hard time be successful or being successful. You just have to differentiate yourself because you're faster, better, more personable, more responsive. You provide a better cleaning service. You're nicer. Like, I would just focus less on competition and more on how do I be the best business owner I could possibly be. Because like your competition's not really thinking about you. Like
Mhm.
I don't think about we don't think about our competition. And it's nothing like it's not a defensive thing. Like we just think of how can we be the best that we could possibly be in our local market, and we try to teach that to our franchise owners in terms of like just obsessing over excellence. It's like we know that our brand, our recognition, like we've established a pretty large foothold within the power washing and exterior cleaning industry in the last couple of years, and it's because we've obsessed over like the experience that we're providing the customer, and we're not like I would never look at a market and be like, oh, there's already a $3 million power washing company in this market, we shouldn't open here. Like I look at that market and say there's two or three $3 million power washing companies in this market. This is a great market for us to go into because the demand is there. But again, that's kind of that abundance like mindset versus scarcity. Like I would just say a lot of those constraints around like, oh, they're 15 years and I'm 3 years, like a lot of that exists within your head. Um, because ultimately, like if you provide a good service and you hustle hard and you treat your customers well and you make sure that you do a good job, like you're going to be able to build a good business. Like there's enough exterior cleaning to go around for multiple people.
No, you're definitely right. I think I saw your video. That was like this was almost, I want to say a little over a year ago, man, where you guys said we're gonna power wash this house the fat. What was that video again, man? It was like and I saw because it went a little bit viral and there were some haters in the comments, they're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you won't be able to do this, man. And I remember seeing that. Can you talk about that video? Because
Sure.
that's a great example of like a piece of content, you know what I
Sure.
mean? That did very well, right? But it caused a little bit of controversy.
I've learned that like if you're not pissing off half of your audience, like I don't know, like anyone who's ever built any audience that's meaningful, half the people just like to watch because they want to talk badly about you. Like, and it's just normal. And it's something like if you do build an audience, like the comments, like whatever they're whatever the person who's talking negatively about you is saying, like it's their issue that they have an issue with you. It's not my issue. Like and so this is a perfect example. Like I went on a podcast, we talked about how we could do a 3,000 square foot house in under 25 minutes. And it was with Chris Kerner, who's a good buddy of mine.
Mhm.
And and then he posted a tweet that broke down like our conversation. And one of the bullet points in the tweet was I, never thought you could power wash a house in 25 minutes or less, but this guy can do it and they can do it in this many states or whatever. And that post, 500,000 people saw that post. And people were commenting underneath saying, it takes me a 6 pack in 12 hours to power wash a 3,000 square foot house. Chris, I trust you, but like you're lying, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so Chris messaged me afterwards. He's like, wow, this got like a lot of engagement. He goes, let's build on this. I was like, cool. What do you think? And he's like, how about I fly to Nashville? And how about we find a 3,000 square foot house? And how about we live tweet it, live stream it? And it'll either make us look really bad or really good, but let's do it. And I was like, all right, done. So he came out like 4 days later to Nashville. My team, because we run our own like franchise location out here as if we are a franchisee. My team that day only the, the only residential job we had on the calendar or that we could get on the calendar was a 4,825 square foot house, eight
It was even
bedrooms.
bigger then. It was even
It
bigger
was
than
bigger.
the house.
Yeah, eight
Okay.
bedrooms, 3 units, 8 baths. And my guys were like, Aaron, like this is gonna be tight to be under 25 minutes. And I was like, we're doing it. Set up, tear down, everything. We're doing it. And they're like, all right, we'll do our best. So it was actually my business partner, Brian Wendling Jr. So Brian Wendling Sr.'s son, who ran his dad's business and helped grow it from, into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. And so he did it with his cousin Jimmy.
Okay.
And so we like kind of built it up and all this kind of stuff. And then he did a Spaces and I did a just live Twitter feed or whatever. And at one point I had 180 people watching us clean this house, and he had like 368 people. So he had like over 500 people watching us clean this, like live watching us clean this, wash this house. And we did it and then I had like our content person come out and video record it so she could put it on YouTube. And we did it in 22 minutes and 13 seconds from setup to teardown. And it was, and then he posted it on his YouTube, and
Mhm.
then he replied to all the comments with the video. Like, anyone
One
who
by
like did it,
one. One by
yeah,
one,
but
right?
one by one, yeah, one by one. Here you go.
Yeah.
Like, here's us doing it. It was really fun.
Yeah. No, and that is a perfect example of the type of content, right? To where you turned and you formulated a certain situation and you, I wouldn't say profited off of it, but like you capitalize that situation. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure that video in itself is doing pretty good and getting people in and educating them in that sense, right? So
Well, I mean, we signed up 2 franchisees from that video.
and look, man, yeah, perfect. See? So even from that video, and they saw that, and so I know that most of my audience in that sense, when they look at that, they might say, "Well, yeah, this is the franchise stuff." But one thing that I think that you said at the very beginning of our conversation that was really good, and I'll just say this one benefit is that even though your guys locally are building a brand, you're building that brand to be national. So it's like when McDonald's first started off, probably nobody probably really knew what it was in its first 2 years, right? But now everybody knows what McDonald's is, right? And so that's probably what you're trying to do with Rolling Suds as well. Then, like, of course, you want your guys to individually build their brands in their area, but also you want to make it a national brand to where it'll be even easier for everybody to just kind of like recognize, like, hey, even if we were to start up in, let's just say Arizona, or even that's probably like one of the worst, I don't know, but like Phoenix, Arizona, right? We're gonna start one in Phoenix, Arizona at that point. They're already gonna recognize your brand. Is that kind of your way of thinking right now with it?
Yeah, so that's how a franchise works. Like in the first handful of years, depending on how fast a brand grows, no one knows who you are.
Mhm.
Um, and those early franchisees are generally more entrepreneurial in nature because they're willing to take like a higher risk tolerance versus like I always say like franchisee number 25 is a very different franchisee than number 150.
Mhm.
So like missed every franchise brand that you can think of started the same way that Rolling Suds is starting. Um, and no one knew what Orange Theory Fitness was when Orange Theory Fitness launched.
Because
Like, and honestly, their families and friends of those first franchisees probably thought they were insane. They're like, "What? You're gonna go buy a gym and spend $1 million to like get an orange gym? Like, good luck, you know?"
yeah, yeah.
Um, but every single one of these brands started with a handful of locations who hustled and grinded and built their brand, their business in their location, and believed in the franchise enough to then continue to either reinvest in the business or buy more trucks or buy more locations. And we're very particular about who comes into our brand. We turn away way more people than we allow in. We turn away like 5 to 6 people a month that have capital, want to deploy it, want to grow a business, want to be fully involved in the day to day of growing the business, who just aren't right for our brand. And that served us really, really well. But ultimately, you get enough of a mass across the U.S. or the globe where everyone knows 1-800 got junk, or everyone knows Two Men in a Truck, or everyone knows Stanley Steamer or Mr. Rooter or McDonald's, like you mentioned. Like, and so that happens like as a brand grows. And we were just rated number 5 top new and emerging brands by Entrepreneur Magazine. We jumped like 150 spots, I think, or more than 150 spots on the Entrepreneur 500 list. So we were in kind of like which is like the most prestigious list for franchises. You don't pay to, it's not pay to play. Like they literally do like an objective analysis of all the brands out there. So we're on track to. I mean, we're already the largest power washing franchise in the world. Um, by the end of this year, we'll be the largest revenue producing power washing company in the U.S. Um, so we're cranking.
I know you guys are cranking. I know you guys are cranking out there. So one thing that I want to highlight and that you just said was that you turn away people because of like what your brand means, right? So this is going to be a two-part question. The first part of the question is going to be like, what is your guys' brand? Number one, right? And then number two, based off of what you're going to tell me, because I know I don't know what you're going to say about what your guys' brand is, but you're going to say like, my next question will be like, how can somebody establish those same principles? Because that's going to, when people are creating content, when people are seeing their trucks, the people that are working for them, they're going to think of that brand recognition. So first part of the question is, what is your guys' brand? Like if like, what do you want that to be? Or what do you want people to see? Or what is your brand at Rolling Suds? And then how can somebody establish that for themselves?
Do you mean like, or
I'm sorry, you have paused for a little bit. And my guy will edit this out. He'll edit this. So it's
okay?
fine. He'll
So
edit this.
you said that my so just so I make sure I understand,
I know I probably said it messed up, man.
are you talking about which candidates are we looking for to be franchise owners like in our brand
We can
or
say that too, but you said like they didn't necessarily fit your brand, right? And so I would say like,
yeah,
what is your guys' brand at Rolling Suds? And then how can somebody establish their own brand as well?
got it. So I think I understand the question. So the candidates that we are looking for to help us grow our brand
Mhm.
are higher level folk, meaning like they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash or cash equivalent, um, close to, a million, between 7 and 800,000 or more net worth. Um, they are committing to a minimum of 2 territories, which is going to require a second truck be added within the first 12 months or less. So we're looking for people who want to scale a sizable business. The kind of like one truck solo guy who's going to do it himself, like totally fine with that individual. It's just not specifically what we're looking for at Rolling Suds. They'll be required to hire 2 full-time employees prior to going to training, which we will provide them resources to help them recruit. They will be deploying large amounts of capital to go towards marketing efforts to drive lead flow, which we either do in house or work with approved vendors that help generate leads, whether it's commercial or residential. And so the kind of type of brand that we're trying to build is with people who want to build like sizable enterprises. Um, so, and most of our franchisees buy 3 territories, which commits them to 3 power washing trucks within the first 18 months. So they're not typically taking much out of the business during that time. They're reinvesting their profits, they're reinvesting their cash from their SBA loan back into getting that business to scale. And it's going to be a really gnarly grind for, at the very least, the first 24 months. But that's because the people who join Rolling Suds want to build a business that has enterprise value that they can maybe sell one day. And it's really hard, as some of your listeners probably know, to get off of the truck once you're on the truck. It's hard to actually focus on growing the business when you are in the business every day. It's hard to sell all day long to drive revenue if you're also doing the cleaning. So we really think about how can we help the owners that join our brand build a business that is a sellable asset at some point. And the way that like people who are listening to this can think about this for themselves is like, whether you're with Rolling Suds or not, these should be thoughts that are going through your head. And how do I remove myself from these elements of the business so I can build something that I can sell? Now, you can build a great three or $400,000 annual power washing business with maybe one employee. Like, and you could make a good margin on that. Like, if you're, but with Rolling Suds, like, if that's what you want to do, don't like Rolling Suds. It doesn't make sense. Like, it literally makes no sense whatsoever to join Rolling Suds. But if you want to add, build a 3 to 5 truck commercial power washing that does residential as well, kind of like Empire, and you want to do it with a ton of resources around marketing and lead gen and hiring and being part of a community of other business owners that are doing the same exact thing across the country, then like Rolling Suds may make sense. But that's why we're so selective because we're really looking for people who A, want to do that, and B, we think they have the capacity to.
That's your brand, growth-minded individuals that are ready to hustle, man. So for your guys' stuff, you guys are just like, hey, look, our brand is people that are really trying to grow in that sense, right? And so I think the big takeaway from what you were saying in that sense is like you have to know what standards or principles and what values you stand upon, and then you can build your brand around that. And you would say
Yes.
like our biggest thing is like for our clients or for people that we work with is always going the extra mile. You know what I mean? And so everybody, so like anybody that's like that type of person that just clocks out, like literally if they're off at 5 o'clock, they're like, hey, it's 4:59. I'm sending my stuff in, I'm clocking out. Those usually aren't the type of people that will survive at our company, right? You know what I mean? And so
Right.
that's what we centered our brand around, and that's what our clients know. Like, man, you guys are workhorses in that sense, right? And so that is awesome, man. So another question that I want to go ahead and ask you then is like how critical is it though for the entire team to know about the brand or like for your guys, because I know that even for franchisees, I know for you have like over 90, you know what I mean? And so how do you make sure, because this is definitely a great question for you in that sense, like how do you make sure that everybody represents what your brand is? Of course, I know you can say, well, that's why, Jonathan, we heavily vet the people when they first get in, right? But
Right.
people can change. Like, I'm pretty sure we've all made hires where the person worked out good for like the first 6 months, and then you're like, man, what happened to this person, right? You know what I mean? So, how do you maintain a culture of consistency around that brand that you have with over 90 franchisees and even more that are going to be growing? Like, how do you make sure that you have that consistent brand?
Great question. So there's a bunch of layers to this, and this really gets into kind of like the franchise side versus like the running an individual power washing side,
But I
power
think it
washing
can
business
still be
side.
valuable, though. I think it still can be
I
valuable.
totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. So before I franchised Rolling Suds, I helped build the largest drywall repair company in the world. We grew that to over 300 locations and then, or 300 territories. And then before that, I helped grow the biggest carpet and floor cleaning franchise in the world.
Mhm.
And we built them at over 900 franchisees in 54 countries while I was there. So the most challenging and difficult thing, one of the most challenging things with a power washing, or excuse me, with a just a franchise in general, is it's decentralized. Whereas if you run a local power washing business and you've got maybe some satellite offices, let's just say, and you've got managers in those satellite, like that is a centralized business that is centralized around, you've got chain of command down there. With a franchise, each franchisee, it's decentralized. Each franchisee runs their independently owned territories and therefore like need the culture really needs to be strong in how to kind of operate those territories. So you need a good culture, which we do through regular communication to franchise owners, updating them on things that we're doing to help them, whether it's through national accounts or new lead generation suppliers, or new marketing initiatives, or new supplier discounts that we negotiate, or creating a water reclamation truck that works in any municipality or locale. So like different things like that where we're communicating with them regularly. Then we also create space for them to regularly interact and communicate with each other. And we do that in Microsoft Teams. So we've got different chats. We've got a marketing support chat, a general franchisee support chat. And me and my team are in those chats with over 100 people who are all sharing ideas, hundreds of messages all day long, so that each person learns something. And then now, like when we were doing it originally, it was us answering all those questions when we first launched. Now it's top franchisees answering those questions. So it really you kind of build the culture and the community, and then the community continues to nurture itself of great franchise owners. Yes, we are very selective, as I mentioned. There are compliance pieces, like if someone comes in and we think they're someone and they're not, and they're stealing, or we hear that they're doing certain things, like we can send out secret shops. We can do compliance measures if necessary. We try to do everything we can to avoid that if possible. But you can't bat 1,000, and that's just a normal thing in franchising. But really, it's how do you create culture? How do you provide resources? How do you continually provide resources? And how do you create a culture of support and collaboration?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that answer, my friend. So the next thing I have about like three or four more, man. I know I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can out of you, man, for this hour, you know? But another thing that I want to talk about is how have you seen your brand or how have you seen your branding affect your marketing? What I tell a lot of our clients in that sense is like some of the clients that we market for, right? Just because of their branding, we see better results. I don't know if it's the same thing for you. Also, since
Yep.
you have one centralized brand, but can you tell me about how that branding's made an impact on your guys' marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when I rebranded or did a brand refresh of Rolling Suds, the way it was branded before would not have appealed to enough of a wide audience in enough states to be relevant. And so, like, having a good brand and good colors and a good logo, and like there's so many subconscious relationships that a consumer's gonna establish when they just look at your truck. And if your truck is, dirty, or, it says ABC pressure washing or something like that, and it doesn't actually, like, or like J&K's pressure washing, like, it needs to be a brand that's memorable, that makes people turn their heads. And so when a Rolling Suds truck drives down the highway, and it's got stripes and there's bubbles everywhere, and it says, and the colors are bright, like, someone's going to look at that when they're driving and turn their head and say, "What's that? Oh, I actually need to get my house power washed, or I need to get my property power washed that I manage, or whatever." Like, I'm going to call them because they clearly know how to grab attention. Um, and ultimately, that's what every brand and every business needs to be able to do well, is tell people about their stuff. And so the better your branding is, the better chance you're going to have of telling people about your stuff before you even tell them about your stuff.
Yeah, no, no, of course. Are there any examples that you can provide that were like just one, maybe one or two, to where like you when you did that brand refresh, you were like, hey, this was the thing we needed to change.
Um, so the wraps, as an example, like the wraps were that were being used, um, any anyone could use the same kind of wrap that they had. It was like kind of the water on the outside and kind of that, like, so like that's a pretty standard, it's not custom. So if you're going to build a power washing, like any kind of franchise, whether it's power washing or drywall repair or roofing or whatever, like the brand and the wrap that goes around the trucks has to be, A, obviously uniform, but B, it has to be custom. Like, it has to be a unique, customized everything that someone else can't do. That's an example. I mean, there's many others, but like, getting the right logo on your shirt, and getting the right color to match the logo, and like getting, the right brand that like represent like it all goes together.
No, so what are some, because this is a nice segue into this, like what are some common branding mistakes that you see other exterior cleaning business owners make in that sense?
Not being unique enough. Like I can't tell you how many like white signs I see that just say like white yard sign like that just say pressure washing and a phone number in black. Like white with black, like there's nothing delineating that yard sign from anything else. Like it doesn't tell the consumer anything about the homeowner, or excuse me, the person who owns that company, or the initials of someone. Like, hey, my name's John Rogers. So my power washing company is going to be J and R JR's Power Washing or whatever. And it's like that doesn't tell the consumer anything. It doesn't make them feel any way. And
What
it's
does?
just not a unique way.
Cheapest guy right here. It's the cheapest guy to probably do it for cheap is JR, you know? It's only J.
Yeah, JR's Power Washing. Yeah. And I mean, I think what we're seeing, at least what we're seeing, is a lot of the residential customers are getting more and more cautious these days around hiring someone who's not a professional. And as just candidly, we continue to add more units nationwide and continue to open more and put more trucks on the road. Like we have over 100 trucks on the road right now. Like we will, it just raises the bar for everyone else. And so if you've got someone who doesn't have the right branding, doesn't have a logo, just started power washing yesterday, has no idea what PSI to use or what percentage of SH to use or like any of that stuff, like a homeowner's going to be like, I'm not hiring that person. And this has happened in every single home service industry that I can think of. There will be a private, either private equity or franchising or a combination of both comes in, sets standards, shows what the industry looks like at scale, and meaning like locations, systemization, technology,
Right.
branding, like all of it goes together, and then that raises the bar for everyone else. And 1-800 Got Junk did this to the junk business. Mr. Rooter did this to the plumbing business, and then you've got private equity coming in and buying plumbing companies because there's this standardization of excellence, and this is happening currently. We are doing it, and it's happening fast. And so those who are not keeping up with unique branding or unique colors or anything like that, like they're just going to fall behind in 2 to 3 years from now because we're moving and other power washing companies are moving so much faster than, and the industry is becoming more and more recognized as this great business that you can start and actually scale.
And I'm glad you're actually saying that because I know this isn't necessarily around branding, but I'm glad that you're talking about well, this is around branding, but the next thing I'm about to talk about is I've seen the same thing, man. And I'm not going to name out any of your competitors or anything like that, but there's other like, exterior cleaning franchises. And what you'll see is you'll see like in the junk removal game, even if I were to type in like junk removal Nashville, right? Who's taking up like 70% of that search? It's like junk removal franchises, Junk King,
Yep.
1-800 Got Junk. What's the military one? Whatever. I think
J Dog
yeah,
Junk.
J-Dog junk removal. It's like all of these, and then there's a red one as well, red and white. I just know the colors because branding, right?
Yep.
I think that
Yep.
might be Junk King. Yeah, but you have
That
all,
is Junk King. Yeah.
yeah, so you'll have all of these just like different junk removal businesses in that sense. Because then there's junk guys, right? The green and white one, like recyclable kind of like look to them. You know what I mean? And so I think with exterior cleaning, you're gonna start getting some of that too. I'm already seeing a little bit of that as well. Like I said, I'll search on Google. And I'm like, damn, there's Rolling Suds right there. Like they came out of nowhere right now, Like at first you
Yeah.
didn't see that, but now you go to like Austin, Texas, you see the Rolling
Hmm.
Suds thing. You go to you guys have somebody in like Cape Coral area or no?
Yep.
But like you might go
Yep.
to like Fresno or something like that, right? And you're
Yep. We have someone there.
like, yeah, see, I know. So it's like, oh man, these guys came out of nowhere, right? In terms of
Right. And then as you know, with the like SEO, like we're targeting the same search terms across all the
yeah,
locations. And
yeah.
so what ends up happening is that all builds. And
Yeah.
so your dollars go a lot farther as an independent business owner than they do, like an independent Rolling Suds business owner, than they do someone who's just kind of starting their brand from scratch. And our franchisees are able to say, hey, we've been around for 35 years and we've now just expanded into your market, even though they started yesterday.
Yeah,
Like
no,
they're allowed to say that, right?
no, you're right, because
So,
they got systems and processes behind it. And I didn't mean to cut you off like that, but even what you said about just like if you guys want to start a new place in like yeah, I'm joking when I say this, but like Temecula, right? You're like, hey, we're gonna have a new place in Temecula. Just the fact that you guys have just had that, because it's hard to compete with some of those franchises at like at a certain point in terms of like ranking and different things like that. Because it's like not only is your guys getting stuff from Pennsylvania, but the guys that are benefiting in Pennsylvania are also going to benefit the guys that are in Fresno. They're going to benefit the guys that are in like Tampa. You know what I mean? And in these
mhm.
different areas like that. And then it's just a rollover effect. And so you're right. That standardization, that branding, people have to do that because I know Aaron, you probably won't be the last, exterior cleaning franchise because somebody's gonna say, we can do what Aaron's doing. You know what I mean? There's always gonna be that, right?
Yeah, and I will tell them it's very hard. I I wish them the best. I sincerely wish them the best of luck, but I will say it's very, very hard.
And then you've already had kind of the experience with other,
Yeah, yeah,
other
and it's
business.
still very hard. Yep.
Yeah, because I used to be a part owner of a junk removal company, right? And so that's how I
Yeah.
knew all of those other type of junk removal
Yep.
franchises, different things like that, right? And I just remember we opened up at first, like we had a location in Raleigh, right? And then we were going to open up a location in Charlotte. And we're like, oh, we'll be able to do this. It'll be pretty easy. I mean, it was the hardest thing because we basically had to make sure that our first location, which was in Raleigh, was foolproof. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Before we
Hmm.
came in, but we didn't do that though. There were certain
Yeah.
things that we did not see that were like they had different regulations, all of that. And so is that the same thing that you guys see in terms of like, you
I
know,
mean,
seasonality, all of that plays a role into this? Because your guys out in Florida are gonna have different seasonality than your guys in Austin, Texas.
they are, but functionally the business, like the way we serve customers is more or less the same. So, yeah, you're going to have different peaks and valleys depending on where you're located. Like California is going to be able to operate all year round, no matter what.
Mhm.
Same as Florida. South Florida might have a different busy season than Austin, Texas, where their busy season might be now. Whereas South Florida, maybe people only, or Southwest Florida, maybe there's like
October.
snowbirds that come down and
Yeah.
stuff like that, right? So like there's different elements like that, but functionally, like it doesn't change the amount of what the service that we're offering is. The way we deliver the service, the way we talk to our customers, the way the tech works, the marketing vendors that we use, like that's the cool thing about a franchise. Like if you go start your own location in Raleigh and you're like, all right, I'm gonna watch some YouTube videos and like I'm gonna go start a power washing business, like that can work. It's just a lot more likely that it'll work with the support of a franchise because we've now done it. We have over 300 units nationwide. Like we've done this. We put over 100 trucks on the road in less than 2 years. Like we have some experience around this, and we give all of that experience to the prospective franchisee. And I mean, with when people think of franchising, they often sometimes have like a bad taste in their mouth. But the reality of it is like there's different forms of leverage. You've got your time and you've got money. Money, time is finite. Money's not. Like you can make more money. And so if you're thinking about how do I get to scale faster, well, if you can buy your time by investing more on the front end, if you can obviously afford it and have the qualifications, so you can invest more on the front end, get a bigger truck, get the marketing that's associated with what we're doing, get the community, and literally turn, you know, years or decades into days. That to me is a good investment. I'm all about like how do I maximize my finite resources? And believe it or not, you only have a handful of finite resources. So it's like how do I get to scale faster? And that is the way that our franchise owners are thinking about it when they join. and they bring two, 300,000, $350,000 to the table, depending on how many territories and trucks that they buy. But they're on a path to add three trucks if they bought three territories by the end of their second year. You know what I mean? Which is like a very different
Yeah.
experience than most power washers who start with $70 and a rented machine.
Yeah. So one of my last questions to you, man, is going to be like, why do you think you guys have been so successful in doing this? Because as I've been in this industry for about 6 years now, and I've seen like I've seen the companies, and you probably know them too, man. Like the companies that are like, 15 locations, across maybe like 4 or 5 states, right?
Hmm.
And different things like that. What do you think has made you guys so successful in being able to expand this out in like 2.5, 3 years, man? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, so the model that we do is different than your average power. Like we're moving faster due to our process that's kind of proprietary to us. Um, our trucks are a significant investment up front, but it allows our franchisees to do jobs faster, hit 5 stories from the ground with pressure, um, and do these jobs faster and in a more profitable way. So that allows them to then afford a team and afford, these other things that a
Hmm.
normal power washer might have to work into.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing is like we're 60 to 70% commercial.
Okay.
So we're significantly higher ticket than, a power washing company that's 95% residential. And so we come in to the market with the like I joke, but like we're showing up to a knife fight with machine guns. And so we come and then there's like we're talking to, like a multi-location restaurant and they're like, "Yeah, I want to work with one company that can handle all of my restaurants." And we're able to do that with the scale that we have. And so by bringing in the right franchise owners who have the right mindset and frankly the right capital to be able to invest and grow, that's where things make a big difference versus like, all right, I'm gonna franchise my power washing business. I'm gonna get some like owner operator people to come in. I'm gonna give them a little bit of marketing resources. They're gonna go out and power wash and they're gonna scale it up. And it's like the business for me doesn't make sense at scale unless every franchise owner has multiple trucks. And frankly, it doesn't make sense for a person to buy a franchise if they're not going to get to multiple trucks and their intention is not to get to multiple. Just go start a power washing business from scratch by yourself. But the people that we're bringing in want to build a business that has enterprise value, that has recurring revenue. They want to be part of a team of franchisees across the country. And so, I mean, there's a ton of other things I can go into, but like those are some things that I can think of off the top of my head.
No, you're right. And I might say something controversial here, but I've always been in the mindset, man, that you can't really just be that guy that only has one truck and it's just you. You know what I mean? Like as much as we want to say that that's fine, which it is. Anybody, like I could go be homeless right now and be like, hey man, that's your prerogative. That's fine.
Yeah,
Deep down subconsciously we know that who really wants to be homeless like this? You know what I mean?
right.
It's the same thing, like who wants to just be one truck and just one guy, right? Because I had a client of ours who actually, God bless him, he's out of the industry now, but he had broke both of his ankles. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Another client that like broke his knee, right? Literally his
yeah.
kneecap fell off of a roof, all of that stuff. And he's been inoperable in his business for the last like 3 to 4 months, right? And
Yeah.
a large of our clients aren't like that, but there's still our clients, like a good 40% of our clients that are like that, right? To where I tell
Hmm.
them, and you're even hearing it too. I know you're saying, man, you're not down in those guys, but I'm saying that like you're one broken leg away from being out of business. You know
Well,
what I
you don't have a business at that point. You have a job, which is fine. If you have a
Yeah.
$300,000 a year power washing business and you're the one doing all the washing, like you're making $150,000 a year, which is a great job. Like you could make a better living doing that than going and working at other jobs, which is why it's such an attractive industry for a lot of like entry level folks. But we're like 28% of our franchisees that are operating right now are former C-level executives that left a three or $400,000 a year job and equity in a company to come build a power washing business. Like nearly 30% of our network are former C-level executives. So like that it's just a different mindset. And when you have a different mindset, you have different opportunities.
Yeah.
Um,
What is your average like? What is your average friend? If you want to share this, and you might already be sharing this on your personal brand stuff, because I think you have before, but like, what is like your average franchise like going to be doing in that, like across all of them in that sense, right? If I'm
so
somebody,
across our first franchise disclosure document that has franchisee data in it, which would be our 2025 FDD, we had five franchise owners that had 12 months um, of data last year. So that was their first calendar year in business. And it was over, our average was over $420,000.
Mhm.
And it's going to be higher this year because we have a larger data set. Um, but like, you don't, that's like, it takes most service businesses years to get to that, like years of trial and error. And, we had five people that had never owned a power washing business before, never had home service experience, came from corporate America
doing half a
and
mil
built.
like that, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah. But I really appreciate you having me on. It's been great chatting. Um, I
man,
have to jump onto a call with some prospective franchise owners that want to talk to me, and I'm excited for that. So,
yeah, man, most definitely. So yeah, guys, Aaron, where can these guys find you?
Aaron Harper, CEO, is my that's my Twitter handle or my X handle. If you want to learn more about becoming a Rolling Suds franchisee, just go to rollingsudsfranchise.com.
And I'll post that in the description and comments, guys. And Aaron, once again, thank you so much. Like I said, man, I know we
Thank you.
both have busy schedules, and I'm glad we are able to fit this in. So,
Thanks so much.
man, and
Talk to you
have
later.
a good audience.
All right. See you.